What is up, guys? So, I just got done live streaming, just got done testing with KvK 2 commanders, the new KvK 2 commanders being CJ, Cyrus, and Bertrand. I didn't test Takeda because everyone has already seen Takeda. He seems cool. Don't really know what to say about him. Didn't really think about testing him. I don't have an account with both either, by the way. My farm account here has most of the Season of Conquest commanders, but doesn't have Bertrand because Bertrand's kind of useless. Never thought I'd ever want him. I have a farm account with Bertrand somewhere else. That's what I was using to test Bertrand. So I mainly want to talk about Pyrrhus and CJ. I also will mention that Freddy with Bertrand was a march I was super hopeful about. Does not seem to be too good because Freddy's active skill is locked to only once per turn, which kind of sucks. So didn't know that, doesn't say that anywhere, but it was only triggering once per turn with Bertrand's combo attacks. I thought it'd trigger 3 times, which would have been great, but it didn't. So yeah, let's start off with just talking about CJ. CJ seems really good, and his best pairing that we found was Pyrrhus. We tested him against Alex YSG, which is arguably the best infantry march right now in KvK 2. Alex Pyrrhus has conversation about that, but it's more like a rally. He doesn't do that good in field. I mean, he does okay, depending on your equipment and everything. It's all dependent on your equipment. So, for these duels, we put on the formation. We also put on equipment and talents. We did not put on armaments because all armaments are legendary, and I think the smite armaments are just so good compared to the arch and wedge armaments that I just didn't even want to do that because that would just be completely skewing the results. So, our first march, our best march that we thought would do best, I was doing this on stream so you can watch it all back, was Pyrrhus primary with CJ secondary. As you can see in our first duel, it lost, and I can show you why. Because on turn 3, Alex uses instant proc. This is all just random. This is why dueling with Alex is super difficult. He uses instant proc, and Pyrrhus got smacked. I mean, Pyrrhus, so CJ did not end up reducing his skill damage by 50%. He missed the 50% here, and he cost a lot. So he ended up taking 13,000 skill damage here when it could have just been, 6k. So that's the flaw with CJ is, I mean, his skill that reduces the skill damage or combo damage or smite damage by 50% is really good. I think this is one of his best skills. It's what makes him really nice because in a duel situation, taking 50% less skill damage on the first skill damage you take is massive. That can just change the whole duel. I mean, it's a 50% chance you're pretty much going to hit it in an active skill if both commanders are doing skill damage. So if he didn't hit that, it was really unlucky, really lucky for Alex, and it just really changed the rest of the duel. It just wasn't the same after that. So that's why we do a bunch of duels, especially with Alexander the Great. He is so random. So the next duel was considered an unlucky duel for Alex. This one, Alex didn't get an instant proc. He got an instant proc on the first turn, but you can see a difference here. He did instant proc on the first turn. Right here, as you can see. But he only lost 6k. That's because CJ's Vow to the Death skill reduced it by 50% and then did more smite damage back. So I think that just shows how good CJ is. It's 2 attacks where pretty much the exact same thing happened, and one of them just got crushed and the other one did really good. Granted, there were other instances of instant proc later in the duel, but from what I saw, there wasn't a ton of instant proc after that. I'll have a little screen with the fighting going on. I was doing this in the stream, so it was cool. It was fun. So yeah, after this there wasn't that many on this one. There were quite a few after instant procs on this one. This is seeming to be what the most consistent. Like, this is a pretty fair duel. The instant procs weren't a ton for Alex. They were just a good amount, and they weren't super early. They weren't super late. So this seems to be pretty much the consensus, like best kind of how they compare against each other. Seems to be about 20-ish% better than Alex, YSG, CJ Pyrrhus. So this seems like pretty much consensus. He's better in a duel. Now you have to think about open field. Open field, Alex is doing a really good debuff to 3 enemies. 30% more damage taken. YSG is also doing circle AoE to 5 enemies, whereas CJ is only doing half circle to 3 enemies. The thing I like, though, about Pyrrhus, that what I think makes him better in an open field than Alexander, is the fact that he takes 20% less skill damage. Now, In Season of Conquest, this isn't crazy because not a lot of the commanders are doing skill damage. In KvK 2, Bertrand isn't really that good. And CJ is the only good commander that doesn't do skill damage. Everybody else does skill damage. I mean, there's like Charles doesn't do skill damage, right? But everybody else is doing skill damage. There's not a big amount of combo or smite damage, right? So all that AoE from random YSGs or Sun Tzus or anything is getting reduced by 20%. That makes him extremely tanky. Also, Pyrrhus does a lot of normal damage, which is what makes him a good pairing for CJ. That's what makes him good, especially his primary, because he gains 20% more normal damage on his active skill, which makes CJ's active skill do 20% more damage, because smite damage is increased by normal damage. Also, normal damage is really good when being swarmed. So if you're being swarmed in the field, if you get swarmed down to 0, right, you're going to get better trades with a Pyrrhus with CJ, because you're doing almost 40% more normal damage, right? After he uses active skill, but 20% all the time more normal damage to all the troops that are surrounding you. That's a lot of damage. I saw that when I was using Alex and Pyrrhus to rally and he was getting swarmed down. Just the white numbers were insane. Normal damage is white numbers, by the way, or pretty much. The white numbers you see when you're being swarmed is the counterattack damage. And normal damage is boosted by counterattack damage. Or counterattack damage is boosted by normal damage. Yeah, see right here. Counterattack. It includes basic, counter, smite, and combo. Anyways, that is why I think Pyrrhus is better in the field. He's so much tankier. You're gonna get better. You're gonna get better trades. Alexander is still great. I think Alexander is still a fine option for you. If you have really good skill damage armaments or something like that, or you really you expertise YSG already, KvK1, then you go Alex, or you go Pyrrhus YSG is pretty good too, by the way. Pyrrhus YSG is a very underrated march. It's very good. So yeah. Now we move on to other pairings for CJ. So what we wanted to test was against a less random. These are all random. See how random this was? It went from 150 almost to 100. This was an extremely lucky duel for Alex, by the way. So the consensus with Alex YSG is that it can beat Pyrrhus CJ if it is very lucky, but it will most likely lose. So here, this is where we start going into the pairings with CJ. We didn't want to do these against Alex because Alex is so random. So our control sample was just Charles with YSG. Charles YSG has very little randomness. The only randomness is an occasional 100 rage from YSG and the 50-50 that he reduces YSG's skill damage every 10 seconds. But every 10 seconds, it will probably trigger. It'll happen. So it doesn't really necessarily make that much of a difference. Also, you'll notice that the difference is just so massive that we didn't even need to do them again, that we just kind of understood, okay, this doesn't make much of a difference. So we just did Pyrrhus CJ, which I thought was going to be the best duel. Then we did CJ Pyrrhus, swap it around, because CJ has a smite tree. But also, that means that Pyrrhus's active skill, giving 20% more normal damage, is not happening for CJ's active skill, right? So he's not getting 20% more damage. So it was like, is 20% more normal damage better than the smite tree? And it turns out that 20% more normal damage is way better than the smite tree. You can see a difference here is pretty massive. We try it again, and they actually lose. This is actually, never mind. This was to Alex YSG. We were like, okay, what happened? So this is kind of a dumb duel. I was actually supposed to do more of these, but we ran out of time. So anyways, this was, I mean, you can take it with a grain of salt. We only did one, but it seemed like overall there wasn't like a ton of luck or anything involved, right? So let's just look at the YSG. So we can tell here, enemy use their active skill here. Enemy use their active skill. So let's just check and see if CJ was able to reduce that. No, so CJ did not get the 50-50 on his active skill the first time, which can actually make a pretty big difference. But a 30% difference here is actually, it didn't seem like it was much better. And it was also still losing to Alexander the Great, which also he did not get. He got an instant proc on the first skill, which was still, I don't know, still did not look as good as Pyrrhus primary. Did not make any more sense, right? So then we also went to try Alexander with CJ. And compared to the Charles Martel with YSG here, it did better. We actually ran a couple of these, I'm pretty sure. Guess we didn't. We moved on after that. I think we did multiple. Let's see. I don't think I favorited them. No, that was it, I guess. I guess we were in a time crunch, I guess. I don't know. So we did one of these. Oh no, we did two of these. Yeah, we did two. Okay, we did two of these. Did not look like anything insane. I don't know. Alex, CJ seems fine. If you have Alex expertise and you also have expertise CJ, it seems okay. Seems not, like nothing crazy. Seemed cool. One thing I also didn't like, why I think I moved on, I remember why I moved on so fast was because I said both of these commanders are both KvK 2 commanders, meaning that KvK 1 you won't have anybody to work on from Daily Chess or Card King or Wheel of Fortune, right? So both of these guys you get expertise at the same time. It makes more sense to go Pyrrhus. And it also just seems like Pyrrhus is just a better pairing anyways with CJ. Granted, I mean, Alex is great, but if you are a whale and you're using this march, it makes more sense to split them up and rock Pyrrhus, CJ, and Alex YSG. Those are still two insane marches. Infantry is still insane, and in KvK 2, they're still insane too. Even the archers were looking good in KvK 2. They got Edward, they got Thutmose, they got Tommy, they got YSG. But infantry seemed to rule there too, which is insane. Anyways, on to, what is this? We did a Edward Tommy duel. This was brutal. There's not much to say except for archers are still good, and especially in a duel, these are like the best duel march in KvK 2. Then we did against Saladin YSG, which is another popular KvK 2 march. This is more meant for the field though, but it got brutalized here. And then, okay, so that wraps it up for CJ. CJ seems like his best pairing is Pyrrhus primary with CJ secondary. The equipment we had on was just like the regular defense set, so 4-piece Eternal Empire with Hope Cloak and Eternal Night pants. So just, I can put it up on the screen, pretty basic, no accessories, and then the talents were just normal talents, whatever. Doesn't make a huge difference with the talents. So looks like Paris with CJ is the best pairing. We're going to move on to small segment, really small, about Cyrus. Cyrus was another commander that no one seemed to talk about because he's not doing anything different. He's just doing him. He's Cyrus. I love Cyrus. He's amazing. Cyrus is all about instant proc damage. So one thing you want to know is also we're using Janissary here. The Ottoman Empire is this account, so he's getting special units, whereas before we aren't getting special units. So it's base infantry versus France units. So there is a little bit of like not 100% fair kind of thing there. But Cyrus YSG absolutely cooked Charles Martel. I mean, we went up against Alex YSG. This was one of the most insane duels I've ever seen in my entire life. So it started out, Cyrus was getting crushed. Cyrus was almost at 50% health, and this dude was just into the yellow. I mean, and then Cyrus brought it back. I mean, look at this. So if you can look into the report here, there is a almost 40,000 troop difference here. We were down 40,000 with Cyrus, and then he comes back, and he brings it back. He's up, he's up, he's up, he's up, he's up, and he just keeps going. I mean, he's up 30,000 here. I mean, he brings the duel back from the death. I mean, and he wins by a good amount too. I mean, we did it again. I mean, Alex got a lot less lucky here, and he got crushed. We did Cyrus YSG versus Saladin YSG. Cyrus YSG cooked here. So Cyrus is seeming like the real deal. Now, what Mafu, who's probably going to make a video about it, brought up was a Cyrus with Kusunoki for like a free-to-play friendly thing, because maxing 2 commanders free-to-play isn't really the best. So we did a Cyrus Kusunoki, and this duel was extremely unlucky. Turn 1, Alex hit an instant proc, which is 17,000 damage, and he still didn't do the worst. We were going to do another duel, and then the thing ran out, and he was actually going pretty well in that duel as the arc ended. So I think Cyrus Kusunoki has hope. I think it actually does really nice. I think his cleansing of all debuffs is really nice, especially poison and slow, and a little bit of control. Those are all 3 things that are in KvK. 2, especially with Ethelfled doing 20% more damage to slowed units. If you can cleanse slow every single time you use your active skill, you're not bidding out 20% damage to all the Ethelfleds that are going to be in the field. There are going to be a lot of Ethelfleds in the field in KvK 2. Plus, he does a bunch of additional damage. He does additional damage here. And Cyrus is going to boost all that by 20% with his active skill, along with just doing more additional damage on all top of all that. And then also gaining a bunch of rage. So, like, he seems really good. Cyrus, Kusunoki seems like a good pairing. I think it's fair to say that it's pretty nice. I mean, it's a pretty glass cannon-y. I mean, Cyrus is giving 30% attack. And the only tanky set you're getting is 15% defense, which is still pretty good. 15% defense is nice. 30% stats on Kusunoki is actually pretty good. He's not doing a ton of damage, but Cyrus makes it into a lot of damage. I mean, what I noticed is that despite his direct damage, his first skill doing more damage, it was actually the 250 damage factor that was doing more than 300 because it was boosted by 20% because of his active skill, because they count as additional damage. It was really funny to see. So yeah, I do believe that that's a good March, and I do also believe that Bertrand is not good, and that he was okay with Freddy. I think it's just because Freddy's also actually not a bad dual March because he does so much single target skill damage. But Cyrus with Kusunoki is great, and then Pyrrhus with CJ seems to be the best pairing for infantry. Infantry can now run like 3 solid marches in KvK2, which is crazy to think about. If you're an infantry whale, dude, you are set. You can go Alex YSG, Pyrrhus CJ, Charles with either Sun Tzu or Ethelfled or Mulan or Joan or any. You can go Constantine too. Like, infantry have so many options now in KvK2 as well. And then they get into Season of Conquest and it's the exact same thing. They have anybody. You can even save CJ. If you expertise 3 legendary commanders, if you spend a bit more or whatever, you get events or MGEs or whatever, you can expertise Pyrrhus and Charles, if you're a whale, for no gold heads through just daily chests and MGEs by KvK2. I mean, that's great. And then you put gold heads into YSG and Cyrus, and that's 2 insane infantry marches for a whale. Like, that's crazy, guys. That's insane to me. And there's still, I mean, Alex YSG is still an insane march, and so Pyrrhus CJ seems to be even a better march. So that's just me, guys. I think that it's going to be crazy. They do make a great change. I'm still fine with YSG. I think if you have an Alex, YSG is the better pairing than CJ for him. They don't really pair. They don't have much synergy together, except for that they're both infantry and they both give a lot of attack. That's it. So I think YSG is the better pairing for Alexander the Great. That's why I end up going YSG on my other account rather than CJ. Granted, CJ is very good, but YSG does seem to be the better pairing for him. If you just have YSG, if you just have Alex and don't have like enough sculptures to expertise Pyrrhus and CJ, YSG seems to be the better option. Anyways, that'll do it, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Those are my thoughts. That's the recap. KvK2 testing. See ya.